Yeah, welcome to our special event again on literature research this afternoon. Um, First of all, when we are talking about literature review, what is important when we are talking about a literature review for the master thesis? So first of all, you have to be familiar with your topic. So therefore, you have to look into the literature, what is already written about your topic. So Um, therefore, you have to check on the one hand the scientific literature, and on the other hand the literature, the popular literature, and then you have to compare the scientific and the other literature, and you have to get familiar with your topic in detail. So when we are talking about concepts and theories have been applied to do it, there you have to check economic theories in our discipline, because when we have an excursus right now to the internet and to the different um, economic theories which are existing, one have to say that we have normally in our research discipline um, the deductive approach, that normally means that you have to look firstly to an theory, and after that you try to answer your problem. Um, you try you try to answer your personal problem based on the literature. So when we have a look um, to the economic theories, there are different theories what we can use in general. When you just want to have a look to this, you can check these websites seeking author. There you have named more than 50 different theories that can be used as a basis for your master thesis. So I put it also into the PDF, and I shared there with you. When we go on with this topic a little bit more, why you have to focus on literature and where you can focus on, we have to answer the question what research methods have been applied in studying it. So then there you have to check the scientific literature for different methods that were be used to answer a research question in the past. So that's very important. The next question lead us to another point, because when we have two or more different scientists that cover a topic, it could be that they have different opinions, and you have to present these opinions in your research paper, so in detail in your master thesis. When we now go on, we have to focus again on researchers. So we have to select um, the main persons that cover a specific topic. So there are different topics in the research world, but all topics have people or have experts. So that are people that are very familiar with the topic, and they have a huge knowledge about the topic, and you have to identify these persons for your master thesis, because they are very important for your ongoing research or for your ongoing literature research when we focus on that. So when we now go a little bit to the master thesis at the FOM, what do you have to concentrate on when we are talking about the topic of quantity? So I highlighted it here a little bit and give you some more details on the slide. When we are focusing on quantity, one can say that you have to use 2 up to 3 different sources on one page. So in total, when you write about 60 pages, you should have between 120 and 180 different sources. So when we are talking about different level of science and the current status of science, so what you should focus on when we are talking about these topics, one can say when we are talking about current literature, your literature shouldn't be older than 2 years. So from our point on 2018 and ongoing. But when you refer to a theory, you must cite the originators of the theories. So when I can give you an example from finance, when we're talking about portfolio management, for example, it would be great, or it's absolutely necessary that you cite Markowitz from 1952. It's a really old author on the topic, but he is very important regarding portfolio management. So when we talk about sciences, then we have to say that it is in general, or the sources should include an ISBN or DOI. You should focus on journals or working papers. That's very important for your digital topics, because the frameworks are changing rapidly, and yeah, there we do not have so often good journal contributions. We just have working papers for that, and that's a very important point that you should focus on in your research at all. And you should look to an association, to an university. So very often you have corresponding author or something else where you can see that it is linked to a university there. When we now concentrate on the different sources we want to focus on today, you have here an overview. So we will start with Google Scholar, and so on, but I will give you some best practice how you can improve your research in your for your master thesis. So if you have any questions regarding the different sources, please give me a hint that I can answer you the question. So first of all, Google. When we are focusing on Google, we have to concentrate firstly on the topic PDF, because normally all scientific sources are in PDF format, because they are not because you are not able to change it. So, for example, PDF is common for when we talk about financial statements, reports by state authorities, for example. Also, when we have studies from consulting companies or scientific studies, all these things are in PDF. That leads to the point that you should use the advanced research, and in the advanced research you should focus on PDF, because then you find directly the important sources for your master thesis. What you should use additionally to that is, I don't know if you are familiar with that, you should use different Google operators. So I here's an overview which one you can use. For example, the OR function is very important, or additionally, when you look, for example, to special information from a company, you can have a look to this information just on the website of the company. When you, for example, here Amazon is named, when you just look for information from Amazon, you can focus on the research on the URL of Amazon. So I mentioned already the file type function. That's very important, and with all these operators, you are able to have a more precise research for your master thesis. So when we now go back to my PDF slides, one can say that the next source for you that is important is Google Scholar, because on Google Scholar you normally find all the relevant literature that is useful for your personal thesis. You should keep in mind that Google Scholar includes some publishing houses that shouldn't be that you should normally exclude from your research. These publishing houses do not have such a good reputation, because there is no control. So you are able just to submit your work to the publishing houses, and you have just to wait a day, and after a day you get your finalized book. And so we do not have the quality in it. So that's another point where you should focus on. You have to check the quality So you have to check the quality of a book always by checking the quality of a publishing house. That means that you have to look in the internet if it is a well-known scientific publishing house, or if there is a really good reputation, because some really popular scientists are using these publishing houses to publish their articles. That's very important to have a look to the quality of books when you use it for your master's thesis. Later on, I will show you how you can check the quality of a journal contribution. So another very important source for your topic is Google Scholar. In Google Scholar, you have different functions. First of all, you can sort by the date. It's on the left side here. And what is very important from my point of view during you are writing your master's thesis, it's a function of alert, because you can activate an alert for all the topics that are relevant for you. When you try to find really good literature on your topic, I recommend to have a look to one leading source, and based on this source, you can use the function side by, because then you are getting newer sources that refer to the source that is relevant for you, and you can look to similar articles that cover similar topics, like your personal result that is important for you. The function of cite or citing is relevant when you use, for example, Mendeley, because there you can copy the bib text format to include it directly in your Mendeley. So another discussion today is open access, because open access is a new way of publishing in the scientific world, because different academics prefer to publish in an open access journal, because then the contribution can be downloaded for free from the internet, because there's no charge for the people that are looking for the contribution. But one have to say that you have to ask your personal supervisor if it is okay to have open access journal in the bibliography, because a lot of people say that the quality of open access journals is not that good, as it is for the other um, um, what it is for the other normal way of publishing. So I got a question here in the chat function. Yeah, it's so again, I repeat it. When we talk about theory in your master's thesis, especially theoretical background, then it's absolutely okay to refer to some older sources, also from 2005 and so on, that was in the question. But you have to give the current status on the research on the theory. That means that you should refer to the old literature, but you should add also the current literature on the topic. That's, from my point of view, very important to check this aspect. Additionally, now I go on again here with the open access. I write it down for you just as a reminder. Because again, I repeat it, some evaluators do not like open access, and they think there's a lack of quality in open access, and that's the reason why you should focus on that only in the case that your supervisor is fine with open access in at all. So now how you can check the quality of the paper. Therefore, I change my sharing with you. So again, here we have the different operators that you can use on Google. So when you when we go back to this, I recommend to use the file type, because you can always search for PDF to find scientific literature. Or when you just have a focus on a topic, then I would recommend to use the function all-in URL. That's very important, and I personally use very often the minus and the or function, because that's very important to find the specific content I'm looking for. So now when we go on to the topic of checking the quality of literature, I recommend to do it on Scopus, because Scopus is a very good database with a high recommendation, where you can look for different literature. There you just have to go into view journals. When we are here in view journals, then we have the chance to search by a subject. So for example, when you say I'm concentrating on business and management, and there especially on management information systems, you can select the journals by that. So here you have the list which journals have a good reputation. So one can say that the firstly named journals have the highest reputation, and the reputation is decreasing according to the list that you see here. And sometimes, I don't know if it is if we can see it here as an example. In the list, yeah, here you see it. There are also some open access journals included, but again, I repeat it. You should focus. You should ask your supervisor if it is okay to cite an open access journal or not. Yeah, that's the way how you can check if the contribution is good or not. Another way to check it is when we are on Google Scholar. When we are on Google Scholar and we are looking, for example, I say it's an expert for my research topic. So I'm focused, you know it already, on financial education. And when I look to Anna Maria Lusardi, for example, one can say that she's a leading author in this part of research. And when we have a check on the quality of an author, one can say you just have to click on the author's name in Google Scholar, and then on the right side you see you see how many citations she has. And that's very important to say, yeah, it's a really good expert in the field or not. I have to give you that advice at this point. Google Scholar is very popular when we are talking about American scientists, but it's not so popular in Europe. That's the reason why sometimes the performance of European scientists is not that good, like for American scientists. But it's just for your orientation to check the reputation of an author, and with this the reputation of the work that you are focusing on. So when we now go back to the slides, Another platform that I recommend to you is ResearchGate. On ResearchGate, you have often um, the it you can often get drafts from um, from journal contributions, because each author is allowed to upload a draft of his work to a platform like ResearchGate. To sum it up, ResearchGate is a social network. It's similar like Facebook, but there's just a focus on academia, and that's the reason why I recommend to you to join the network, because there you can often get drafts from journal contributions, or additionally, you can get there some data sets. When we now go to EBSCO, it's the literature research engine that is included in the online campus. There you have the chance to use or to get all the literature that is licensed by the FOM, and you have more than 200,000 different titles. It includes books, it includes articles, and so on. You just have to be familiar with the research. But I recommend to you to do so the primary research should be done on Google Scholar, and the download should be realized in the online campus. So you need virtual private network to access the library of the FOM, the online library. There's an explanation how to install the virtual private network from the FOM on your machines in the online campus. You just have to follow the instructions there. I know it is in German, but I think it's very clear for you how to install the virtual private network. Yeah, at the moment you just get full text in the online campus. So if there is no hit for your inquiry, then you know it is not download. You cannot download it directly from the online campus, and that's the reason why you should yeah, use this way to get your literature. But again, I repeat it, I wouldn't use the online campus to find the literature, because the algorithm in Google Scholar is, from my point of view, the best one. And so I would use that to find the literature, and I would use the online Literaturrecherche just to get the different papers. So you have also access to Springer. That's very important, because Springer Gabler is a very famous German publishing house that includes a lot of titles that can be used when you want to have a German focus also in your master's thesis. Statista is good to get some data for your master's thesis, but please keep in mind that the business model of Statista is just to get statistics from a third party, and to transform this into PowerPoint or Excel, because then you can use it for your in a better way for your personal um, calculations. But I highlighted again here in the slide, it's normally not the source. So source is always a third party. It's normally on the second Excel sheet or at the end in the PowerPoint file. So when we now go on, when you need some financial data from you for your master's thesis, we have a Bloomberg terminal at the FOM in Essen. There you can get standardized balance sheets and also other standardized data, so you can keep in your mind that you get there all numbers for listed companies. So in Excel, you can download it directly into Excel, and you save a lot of time in comparison to get the data from a financial statement of company. When you want to use this in your master's thesis, you have to make an appointment with me because you need a special event on Bloomberg where you have to sign some documents and so on. So you just have to look for Bloomberg Schulung in the online campus. Then you can make an appointment directly in the online campus, and then we have a special event on that. And after this special event on Bloomberg, you are allowed to use it on your own in the library at the FOM in Essen. So now when we go on to some further databases to get literature, we can focus on Econ Store. Econ Store has a really huge library, or it's a huge library for working papers, conference proceedings, and so on. But there is a focus on open access. So I mentioned it. You have to talk to your supervisor if open access is okay. If you need current literature on your topics and open access is okay, then you can check Econ Store to get the literature. RePEc, Research Papers in Economics, is another database. Why I recommend it to you, because there are also some software components included, and that can be interesting from my point of view for your specific field of research. Then we have BASE. When we have BASE, or when we focus on BASE, there we have also open access, so more than 60% are open access, and that's very important, I think, also for your digital topics regarding to your field of studies. My last recommendation, and then I'm already finished with my presentation, is Mendeley. Mendeley supports you in having a right way of citation in your master's thesis, especially with focus on correctness and unique uniqueness, because Mendeley is a tool that makes citations automatically, and that's why I recommended to use it for you. So the last things I want to show you in the webinar will be Mendeley and how you can use it. But first of all, now I have the question to you. A little bit the Mendeley research, so how you can go on with your research in Mendeley. When I open it, I have, for example, one starting paper for the topic here. When we talk about the qualitative information or the textual tone, it's another word for that in the in the literature, that can be a starting point. So it's from a really well reputed journal of banking and finance. It has a really good ranking and a really good impact factor. And when I use Mendeley, I can also use here the related function. So then Mendeley is giving me some other papers that cover the topic. So that's the first function I recommend to you to use in Mendeley. What else? When I write, so how I normally work with this. So when I work with Mendeley to get further papers, there's just a related function. But you can also use Mendeley to build a library. So therefore, when I switch to my Safari, you can I can look in Google Scholar. When I there enter my leading paper, then you see it's cited by 250 persons, and I can also use the function similar articles. So when I use cited by, I get 250 entries where I can have a closer look to the topic. So there you can see, for example, this one, textual analysis in accounting and finance, a survey. So I would look to this topic because it's, from my point of view, it fits really good to my research questions. So when I go into this, the DOI number is important because I recommend always to copy this one. And I download the paper because I have access to that paper in the internet. When I now go back to my Mendeley, I can add the paper by add entry manually, and I can put here the DOI number. When I enter the DOI number, I can use the lookup function, and I get all the details about the authors and so on. I normally recommend to modify it a little bit because it's looking a little bit strange in your bibliography. So, for example, what I normally do is I modify the writing a little bit. So so then it's a little bit more easier to read because everything in capital letters is not so fine. And that's the reason why I recommend to modify it a little bit. Then you can also use add files. So when I'm here, that paper, for me, I can add the paper here and then I have it in my Mendeley. So when I normally start reading, so again, when we talk about quality papers, how I can identify really good scientific papers. So first of all, as one indicator, we have JEL codes. JEL codes are codes for the different scientific disciplines that we have, and each discipline has another code. Also, the keywords are a normal sign for a scientific paper. Then we have very often University of something here, and yeah, we have also here some information about accepted by specific persons, or we have acknowledgements and so on. Yeah, so and yeah, we have sources in the text. So when I now started on my topic to deal with the financial statements, how I can do textual analysis. So when I do this, I recommend to you to go firstly through the introduction. After that, you should read the conclusion at the end. Yeah, so because in the conclusion, in the introduction, you normally have the aim. That was the reason why I recommended you to have a really good, measurable, and countable aim in your introduction in the master thesis too. And in the conclusion, yeah, you have normally the answer and a sum up of all the relevance aspects that are in the rest of the text. So you can also use the references to find some additional literature. So I always call it bibliography surfing. You can surf through the different references and you can check if the references are useful for your further research too. When we now go through the text, so the normal way how I work with the topic, when I say, so what are the main findings in this paper? I have a look to firstly to the conclusion. They have the first orientation, but then I go to the discussion. It's normally directly before the conclusion. So here we have the areas for further research. It's the same like in your master thesis, a topic about the limitations, because further research means that the current research that we're seeing here is limited. So yeah, what we can do right now is we can have a look to the text. So when we read it a little bit. So when, for example, this expression is very useful for us, when we say, we can highlight it here. For example, if the firm has a heavy debt load, managers may elect to highlight positive trends in non-GAAP EBITDA, thereby closing over the company's inability to generate cash flows much above the interest expense. So when I work right now on my on my state of research in the Word document. So I switch to that. First of all, I can say when I go to state of research, one can say when I start writing here, the first thing I would use is, for me, just a placeholder that I have to modify the text, because it's a direct copy without any modification by myself. So I put always the original text into the Word document just as a placeholder, and I start citing this one. How I do this? Yeah, I do it always by using Mendeley. Therefore, and when I click on references in Mendeley, I can insert it, and then you have the function go to Mendeley, and I can say, yeah, that's in this paper, and I just click on cite. And when I'm using for example here, the APA style or the Harvard style when I changes. It's cited in line, and I do not have to create some footnotes. Those of you that prefer to use footnotes, you can use for that, for example, the Chicago Manual of Style 17th edition full note, because then footnotes are created automatically. So yeah, that's how I normally start with Mendeley. So when we now want to add our bibliography, one can you just have to click on insert bibliography, and then Mendeley is creating the bibliography, and in this style the DOI is including. So that's automatically in this. So when I now start my state of research and I say that's a really good finding of the people there, I would recommend to you to create first of all a table. And again, for me in the table, I normally say I put in the first, I put the source where I found this. Yeah, in this case, it's Lafman. I add the variables. They are dealing, for example, with the EBITDA as one variable, and after that I put some the time in that. So therefore I go back. I have to share this with you in my Mendeley. I go back to Mendeley and I look which data is covered in the research by the named persons. Therefore, I have to check their chapter about data and methodology. Where is it? So wait a minute. It's a really long paper. Yeah, here defining a measuring. Okay, it's just the readability. You can see there's really a lot of information about the topic in this single paper. So I hope I will find it. No, it's just the introduction. So I would just look it up by looking for data set. But here I'm not able to find it. Okay, you have to read the whole paper to find this information, but I would add this aspect also to the table, and then I would also add some information about again about the key findings. I would sum it up what you should focus on in the in the paper, and after that you will get a lot of different paragraphs with different authors in that, and then you have a really good state of research. Then you have a current status about your topic and where you can start with your master thesis. So you have to work on this. I can show you in Mendeley one of my examples, because in one paper I have published it together with some colleagues, where I also worked on such a table. So I have to go back some years. Yeah, it is that one. I think, yeah, here it is. So I normally have such a table in my research, where I say source. I wrote in my paper about professional football related to financial markets, and so you have here the different variables, the time, the key findings, and sometimes I put also some columns where I focus on the importance of this work for my current work. And that's normally a very good way how you can sort your different papers that you found for your topic, and to sort it, because with that you can sort it by the different tags, and then you have the related and the comparable papers for this specific paper.